What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode. Don't know, we're rebranding. We're changing a lot of things. So it could be the Daniel Kelley Podcast. It could be something else. But today I have on Joshua Weir. So Joshua is a husband, father of 7, soon to be 8. Hopefully I can say that.
Yeah.
There we go. And he's a co-owner of Transform Construction, which is a Columbus-based general contracting company that he's been building since 2002. But behind the success, there is a story of radical faith, transformation, no pun intended. But today we're going to unpack that journey and just the unfolding of his life. So welcome to the podcast.
Great to be here.
You know, I was thinking about this actually earlier today is we've talked, but like, I don't really actually know too much of your background, like too much of your history. So it'd be all right if we jumped into that.
Absolutely. How deep do you want me to go?
I don't want you to go deep. Go however deep you want, actually. Actually, before you, just because, so for people listening, Joshua, his son, Johnny, and me, we're good friends. And that's how we kind of got connected. So Joshua's he's been like a mentor to me, just helping me out with growing in all sorts of areas. And yeah, so that's just a little backstory on that. But I guess continue.
Yes. Well, I'll give just high points, right? Because I could take a long time.
Yeah.
If you want me to go back.
And I'll have questions too.
Okay.
So
the thing I like to talk about is some of the jacked upness of my past, because I think it just gives hope that it doesn't matter kind of what you came from. So my mom was 15 when she got pregnant with me.
Are you serious?
15 years old.
And your mom was Renee, right?
Yeah, Renee. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's where I've met her.
And my dad was 24.
Wow.
That's jacked. Just think about that for a second.
Wait a second. I didn't.
24, man.
Wow.
He was married at the time, although separate from his wife. So,
yeah.
So I always like to say I was conceived in, I was a bastard, conceived statutory rape, technically, right?
Yeah.
And child, I mean, it was totally consensual. My mom, and dad loved it. Well, I guess they loved each other. They were hippies.
Uh-huh.
They were hippies. But yeah, I was conceived in a pretty crazy scene out in Phoenix, Arizona.
No way. That's insane.
And early on in life, they joined a commune out in Tucson.
What's a commune?
A commune's like a cult, like crazy place that everyone moves to, sells all their belongings, and follows a guru.
Okay, gotcha.
And this guru was crazy. And that's where I lived for the first, 9 months of my life until my mom fled because it was so crazy. My dad stayed because he was a whack job back then.
Yeah.
And then we moved back to Phoenix. And so I grew up there with a hippie mom and a hippie dad. And my dad, they eventually got split. And then my dad moved back here to Columbus. That's my connection to Columbus.
So they split. Your dad moved back here.
Back here to Columbus. My mom stayed in Phoenix. So I grew up in Phoenix and would come back here every summer and winter. Spend time with my dad.
Yeah.
Meaning summers and Christmas.
Have I met your dad?
Yeah, it's Rusty.
Oh,
yes.
Rusty. Oh my gosh.
Rusty. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So Rusty was a wild man. He was so my mom was super broken, obviously at 15, having me.
Yeah.
She went on to become a PhD, a professor at a university. So she became very successful.
Yeah.
My dad was a raging alcoholic, but raging is the wrong word. He was what they call happy drunk, right? So he would get drunk. Yeah. He would get drunk, but he'd be super happy.
Yeah.
But I hated it. So I would spend my entire summers with him here, and he would get, basically he was a 4-day a week get blasted guy. So that's kind of his pattern. Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
Thursday, Friday, that's 3. So maybe sometimes those Wednesday.
Sounds like college days.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a real weird dynamic with my mom, and she was so young. She didn't know what she was doing. So with me at 16, I'm 1, she's at 17, I'm 2. She's a single mom going to university at 19,
Wow.
So a lot of I was living with all kinds of crazy people. I was 4 or 5. I got molested by a dude that was living with us.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's all the dark pieces. And then my dad, I would come back here and he was just didn't know how to live life, right?
Yes.
His dad killed himself, because he was just a wreck and an alcoholic. So alcoholism is just right through my family.
Yeah.
I mean, grandpa to great grandpa,
Yeah.
super bizarre how it just travels.
Uh-huh.
And I would, be waiting at home as a 7-year-old for my dad to come home from work, and he just wouldn't come home because he would be out literally with prostitutes. I mean, he would go to the bars and go out.
Was he still just like a single man at this point?
Yeah, single man, never got remarried.
So your parents, they split?
Split when I was about three, yeah.
So that's when he came to Columbus, and then Renee stayed in
Phoenix.
Okay,
I traveled back and forth. Back in that day, I was flying at 5 by myself.
How often were you doing that?
Every summer.
Every summer, okay.
And then every Christmas.
Okay.
But yeah, think about watching a 5-year-old on a plane by himself.
Yeah.
6-year-old. They used to do that.
Yeah.
Back in the day. You could they'd have a little attendant go with you, and put you in the seat.
I do have a question though. So you briefly brought up that at 4 years old when you got molested, like, did you know that happened to you at 4 years old, or was it until like years later where you were like, I got molested?
Completely blocked it out until I should think about when this was. Probably 15 years ago. So I'm 50.
Yeah.
So that would have been 35. So basically 30 years later, I was going to counseling, and I had some inklings of it because you read any book or whatever and signs of being molested, and I can't even remember what they are, but I remember reading like I have a few of those, like just indicators. And the one thing that was a huge indicator I remember being at this seminar, and there was this big guy that I wasn't scared of big dudes, but this guy in particular. He had overalls on, and he just made me feel sick to my stomach. I was like, "What in the world?" I asked my wife, I'm like, she's like, "He's fine. He was a great guy."
Yeah.
But what I later found out is this dude. He was a big dude.
Yeah.
His name is Dana. He's dead now. Died of AIDS and the whole crazy thing there. But he would wear. He had overalls and was a big dude. So, anyways, my subconscious was picking. Sounds super weird, but
that makes
as a grown man, I was seeing this big man with overalls, and it made me feel just sick to my stomach. So that was my first little it was weird here. I didn't want the guy to engage with me at all. I was relatively together. I wasn't super broken, dude, but I was at 35. I was like, what is going on inside?
Yeah.
And then I was going through a counseling session with a lady, and she started saying, hey, you have a lot of signs of molestation. She's like, did your mom? I'm like, no, my mom didn't molest me. Like, no, like your dad. Like, no, my dad. And she was going through this list. Then she started having me do basically this exercise where you're kind of allowing yourself to feel that icky feeling that I felt when I saw that dude.
Yes.
That random dude. And then she started having me picture, where are you at now? Think of yourself. It sounds super weird, but think of where you're at with it as a child.
Yeah.
And then how do you feel and where are you at? And all of a sudden I said, oh, I'm at my grandparents' house. And then she started saying, well, did your grandparents molest you? I'm like, no. I knew they hadn't because I just know them today.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I started there's this guy, and I realized that guy's name is Dana, but he didn't live with us. So I leave the counseling appointment and I go and ask my family. I said, hey, did Dana ever live with us? They said, yes. Lived with us for like 9 months. I had no recollection. And so then the next counseling appointment I go through, and all of a sudden all these memories start to flood. And I was getting nauseous.
Yeah. So all of that, so as you were going through that exercise, all these memories just started to like come back.
Yes, but here's the thing that's weird about it. It wasn't like I was having vivid memories, as in I was picturing him and me and being molested. I was having all of these random fragments of like just little, being in the bathroom or this hairbrush but all of these feelings, all this, like, I want to vomit.
Yes.
And so we would pray. She would invite the Holy Spirit just to bring healing as I was feeling all that stuff. And so, I don't know, maybe 4 sessions of that. And then it just was gone.
It was gone.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So
you're good.
It's bizarre because I'm not a fan of people saying, well, you have hidden things that you just don't remember. I feel like we can kind of overplay that.
Yeah.
but that's my story 100%. Like, I know that was real for me. I shut it out.
Yeah.
100%.
That's interesting because I think about, like, there's trauma. Like, everyone has childhood trauma.
Yes.
To, like, what degree that looks like you won't know until you get older, and then you have to look back and you got to work that out. Like, no, that just makes me think about how important one therapy is. Like, even, like, frankly, I've been thinking lately, I was like, man, there's probably some things that I got to work out too. I mean, me and Johnny were actually talking about it recently too, because, like, he's got stuff that he's working out too, and so yeah, that's been a thought. But okay, I think I got you off trail, I guess. So you moved, I guess. So you're in Columbus now, or you're going back and forth growing up. I guess we got to pick up on the story of
where I was.
Yeah, where you are. Yeah.
So, I started reading, so just to bump to 13, I started reading, 12, I was reading C.S. Lewis.
Yes.
He has a trilogy called, not a trilogy, I think there's 7 books, The Chronicles of Narnia. And so I had no religious background. I mean, we didn't go to, I didn't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
And I started reading that book, though, because my grandma said, hey, you should read this. And I loved it. But I think what it did is it opened me up to, I remember it was here in Columbus, actually, over in Bexley, standing on my grandma's porch. And I was looking up at the sky as a 12-year-old, thinking, there's got to be more to life. Like, what is it?
Yeah.
But I didn't have any answers, 0 answers. But I think it was because, and again, there's this theory. I think it's because I was reading this Chronicles of Narnia stuff. And it was like just awakening something inside. Like, there is something else.
Yeah.
The world.
Yeah.
So I asked my aunt the next day. I happened to be hanging out with my aunt, and she told me about this Jesus guy. And she said, do you want to get born again? I never heard.
So your aunt on dad's side or mom's side? Mom's side.
Yeah.
So
she was a crazy Christian.
Yeah. And your mom, though, wasn't at this.
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. So all my uncles and aunts, who were really more like my brothers and sisters, right? Because my mom's 15. So my uncles were 10 years older than me. Okay. Aunts were 12 years old, So anyways, told me about Jesus. And I was like, cool. It just made sense. So I got, what I would call born again at 12.
Yeah.
And my mom, unknown to me, when I came back from Columbus, moved back to Phoenix, she was there and she's like, hey, let's start going to church. I didn't know she got born again
too.
The same year, the same month or whatever. So we started going to church. So I lived what I would call kind of a nominal Christian life all through high school.
Yeah.
Went to college, actually same college you went to.
Yeah. Go ahead, Alex.
And ended up getting into a fraternity and became just like this wild man, crazy, just this classic frat stuff.
Yes.
And
frat star.
Yeah, frat star, right? And it was fun. It was so fun.
So much fun. Yes.
And then I just didn't like who I was becoming. I was just like, oh, I don't like this. And again, without getting to all of it, I had something happen, another crazy. I went away on a weekend retreat with this group called Campus Crusade for Christ. And I didn't want to go. I had no interest in going, but this guy kept begging me to go. And so I went.
Was he in the fraternity?
He was in a fraternity.
Okay.
And he led a Bible study for frat guys.
Oh, nice.
So I went to it. I'm like, okay, I'll go to it. Because I love Jesus, but I also love to get hammered. Or so
yeah.
I loved it all. Right? Let's do it all. So I went to this thing and I came back and I was the social chair. You know what that is, right? Yep. So I was responsible for getting all the nerds off the couch to stop watching Sports Center.
Yeah.
The sororities are coming over. You got to start drinking. So
we got to start boozing.
Fired up.
Yes.
So that was me. Well, we had a party and I came back from this weekend and something has happened in a 2-day period. I can't even tell you. And it wasn't like some event. It was just, I went away, came back. I had zero ability, like zero desire to drink or party.
Yeah.
And so I had a party and it did what it did and I just didn't participate.
Yeah.
I went to my Bible study the next night and I was the only guy that showed up other than my Bible study leader. And I just wept. So I was like, I don't know who I am.
Wow.
Like everybody knows me as Weir.
Yeah.
Let's go. And I was like, I literally don't know who I am. And that was 30 years ago. And I've been, I guess, running and gunning for Jesus.
Ever since.
Yeah.
But it's not been smooth.
It's been everything but smooth. Yeah.
So
the idea that when you start following Jesus or you get saved, that's when everything just starts going good.
Yeah.
And I would say in some ways it's deceptive or it's deceiving because it's kind of true.
Yeah.
Like you have this encounter with the living God and it's like, oh my gosh. And something comes alive in you.
Yes.
And, oh, okay. I guess everything's going to feel really like this.
Yes.
And then you start getting your teeth kicked in because life does that.
Yeah.
And then you start mixing like, oh crap, is this God? Why is God letting this happen to me? And you can get really confused. I think that's why a lot of people really have an encounter with God and end up walking away.
Yeah.
They don't know how to interpret life through the lens of God, life, difficulty, pain, suffering.
Like, oh, if I like follow God, like I shouldn't have a problem. Like there shouldn't be any problems. But it's like, actually just saying that makes me think about when the Holy Spirit led Jesus into the wilderness.
Wow.
I was like, man,
that was painful.
Painful.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I know we were talking about this a little bit off camera, but so after college, I mean, I do kind of want to lean a little bit more into like the family aspect. I just feel like that's something that we got to talk about.
Yes.
And like your life hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows when it comes to just like, you got married the first time, then it ended in divorce. And then also too, like, I just know this about you is like, you're talking about how at one point you're $2 million in debt.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot to, I guess, like unpack there, but like still being able to like trust, like that there is a process and that like, this is just like a part of it. I don't know. What was that like going through that with like, I guess call it maybe like the first, I don't want to call it like the first letdown, but like with like when your marriage, like in the beginning, like that falling apart, like that had to been.
Yeah. So I would say,
navigate.
So there's so many pieces that were all happening at the same time. So business, which was, I went through lots of suffering because we had 2008.
Yes.
And that whole thing, I had like 6, I was flipping houses. Like
buying and flipping. Yeah.
Buying and flipping. And I was holding 6 at that point. And my only income was to sell them. So I was basically underwater in 2008. And then my marriage was beginning to unravel. We had a miscarriage. We had, I was also a pastor.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was pastoring a church.
And you were doing the construction thing.
And I had a construction. I was doing too much. I was way overplaying.
Yes.
Right? And we were having a church split, basically in that period of time, 2008 to 2010. So basically I was failing on every front. My marriage was failing. My business was failing. The church was failing. And, it's like, hey, how can I fail more?
Yeah. What did that feel like during that? Like, what did that just like, did you feel like at any point where you just like, man, I feel like a loser? or were you like, no, like I'm going to.
I think it was all kinds of emotion. So despair.
Yes.
Probably the deepest despair I felt was in the heart of the divorce.
Yeah.
The church split, that was really painful because I had people who I loved who basically, turned their back on me. It's kind of like being betrayed by people who are your brothers.
Because of the, like...
No. Sorry. Totally independent of each other.
Independent, okay.
All these, business had nothing to do with the church. They're all tied together.
Yes, they are.
In retrospect, I would say the marriage failed as a result of the pressure on the business and the pressure from the church. I think if we would have had that, we would have, you could handle a certain amount of pressure, a little more pressure, and at some point the pressure breaks you.
Yeah.
Not to give an excuse, but I just...
No, that makes total sense.
I think that's just the reality.
Yes.
So, I don't know. I should think more about this. Why I got angry with God.
Yes.
And I would cry and I would yell at God.
Yes.
I would do things like that, but I never felt like I'm walking away. I don't know why. And I should think about that more deeply because I just see so many people who, in the deepest pain, they walk away from the one person who can help them.
Yes.
So I look back at all my failures and everything I messed up really badly, and I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in some like cheesy way. I literally mean it. Like my divorce, business failing, church split. So much pain, betrayal, but it's because I stayed connected to God in it.
Yes.
And he kept my heart soft.
Yeah.
So
that's the key too. I feel like that is like, just like me, we've talked like just I'm working through some things and just like making sure like my heart is not calloused. And like that's like literally like a prayer that I was like praying this morning and writing about, where it's just like I know I'm working through these things, but like, because if you don't have like a fleshly heart, like a just like one that's soft, like that's where bitterness, resentment, I mean, pessimism, like it all flows from.
Guard your heart.
Yeah, like,
Out of it spring the issues of life. I mean, if you don't guard your heart and protect it and keep it soft,
yeah,
the whole life just starts to not be good.
fall apart.
Yeah.
And then like now, like, yeah, I remember I was listening to another sermon of yours actually that you did. I was talking about how like if you have talking about walk. Oh wait, no, this is literally your sermon last week. Talking about if you walk by the Spirit, like you'll not gratify the desires of the flesh. Romans like 8:13.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, if you're experiencing like anxiety, experiencing just unsettledness, restlessness, or just stress, like you're not walking by the Spirit.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, so I guess that means I'm walking by the flesh.
Yeah. So, and then the question is, well, what do you do with that?
Yeah, exactly. And that's because like even just like yesterday, I was having a tough day, and just like out of nowhere, just got like hit with like a wave of just like I don't know, I guess call it just sadness, anxiety, depression, and like I like felt like the joy of just like I had no joy whatsoever. And frankly, I don't know. I must have just got like really in my head, but I was like clearly like, I think a lot of us, when we're walking in the flesh, is because it comes from a place of lack, is what I'm starting to think is like, oh, you're not where you want to be, or like, say you start acting like, I was thinking about me and Johnny were talking about this pride and how even that can come from like a place of lack, because now like you might want people to see you, so now you're starting to act like prideful, but really because you're unseen, so there's a lack of exposure, which there's a lot to unpack there, but that's just a thought. But
just a little bunny trail that this whole soft heart piece.
Yes.
I think the idea of keeping your heart soft, I think, is really primarily about not turning your back on God.
Yeah.
Meaning just stay in conversation. It doesn't mean you got to do it all perfect and do it all right. I just think if I just think about you, and I think about me today, but also back when I was getting my teeth absolutely kicked in.
Yeah.
Because I see a lot of people who go through hard. People think, well, everything happens for a reason. Total BS. I think that's garbage, a cultural cliche.
I like that take. Yeah.
Total garbage. Really? Well, apparently you haven't been around those that the stuff that happens to them ends only in tragedy. So apparently it didn't work out for those people. I just think it's so short-sighted to say everything happens for a reason. I get why people say it, but experience by itself doesn't teach anything.
Yeah.
It's experience with a soft heart that allows you, and I believe, some connection to God in some form that allows your heart to stay soft so that you learn and grow and mature through it.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I graduated from college from Miami, and I was just left from my frat bros, and I moved to a job where guys were making, at 21, I was making $100,000.
That's great.
I was selling houses.
Yes.
I was working for Pulte.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I was the youngest guy in the whole region. So I was working with guys that are 50 and 60, the age I am now. And I thought, well, when you get older, you mature. Mm-hmm. These guys were literally no different. They were doing coke. They were getting hammered. They were at 50 and 60. They were no different than my frat brothers, which was the first eye opener that time doesn't just mature you.
Yes.
Like just because you get older, you get mature, more depth, more wisdom. No, you don't.
I mean, I think what you're just talking about this is, I mean, as time goes on, your teeth get kicked in. Will tend to get kicked in more, but it's like, what do you do with getting your teeth kicked in? That's where the invitation to maturity is.
Totally.
Dang, that's
because we're all going to have our teeth cared in. And it's all relative. Like, well, I wasn't whatever molested. Who cares? You had your own issues, or I didn't lose a business or get divorced, but every one of us is getting our teeth kicked in some way. And it's all relative. My pain is totally relative to your pain.
Yeah.
Well, you went through so much more. It doesn't make any difference. Whatever you went through is.
That can be super. I was thinking about this too. It's like that is super. When you're comparing pain, like that's super dangerous because now it's like I can say this right now. I don't come from a similar background as you.
Yeah.
But if I were to be like, oh, he went through just like so much more like pain, but like that's discounting like what I've been through and whatever. Because then that's like it prevents people from wanting to open up and share like their vulnerabilities.
And I think about Johnny, my son. I was his dad. There were so many things he got protected from, and he's got issues.
Yeah,
you were protected. You got great parents. But you got issues.
Exactly.
And so I think it's super important to say to not downplay this person's story, no matter how not good it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thought. Actually, that's another thought for another time. So I can just, tell highly ambitious guy, like you've done a lot of, built businesses and it's awesome. But were you, when you were younger, like, did you, were you like, oh, like, what was your outlook on like enduring like a process? Or were you like super, like, did you lack patience at all? Or what would you tell your 20-year-old self?
Well, I was super idealistic, meaning I just assumed if you had the right heart, meaning good intentions.
Yes.
That everything, and you pray and all that stuff, that it all works out. I literally was very confident of that. If you have enough faith, if you have good heart, then it all works out. And that just couldn't be further from the truth. So that's number one, is having that blew up.
Yeah.
Like, nope, that's not how. Wisdom, without wisdom, your life is going to suck.
You're done for. Yeah.
So that's.
What did that realization look like? So I take it like there had to have been a point where you're like, oh, wow, like just having faith alone is not gonna.
Well, my business, I could take any of the examples. My business is a great one because I started it in 2002.
Yeah.
And I was praying up a storm, like, oh, God bless my business, success. I was doing all the praying you could possibly. I could have prayed more, but I prayed a lot.
Yeah.
I kept, increasing debt. And so by 2018, it was when the light bulb came on, because we stopped growing purposely because we were growing so fast. And growth can make you think, oh, it's all good, because the top line is coming in and you think, oh, I'm growing. I'm going from 1 million to 3 million to 5 million.
Yeah.
It's great. 8 million to 12 million. Everything is perfect. But the top line doesn't matter. It's how much is actually trickling down your pocket.
Yes.
And the answer was zero. No, the answer was negative. Negative. Because we were.
Did you know that?
No.
So you had to do like a straight up like audit, and then you were like, wow, we aren't making any money.
Yeah. Again, lack of wisdom. Now it's so embarrassing to think. It's so obvious. You look at your P&L and you see what's going down to the bottom line, which is net income. But I thought I was so naive and so idealistic. I just thought growth is what you want.
Yes.
Like, my prayer was always about the top line number. I was always pray about that number. I know we would hit that number. I remember when I used to pray to make 10 million. Lord, let our company make 10 million. We made it. And then we went up. I think before we completely corrected, I think we went up to 14 million.
Yeah.
Which is great, except we were, take it down to the bottom line, we were losing 300,000, 400,000 a year. And so I'd take out more loans. I'd borrow from friends and family. Bad. So I can't remember the original question, but
talking about just like, well, we were talking about like youth, but you're talking about how you're super idealistic.
Yeah, well,
thinking if you just prayed more, whatever, like you're gonna.
So
it's all gonna work.
Face the facts.
Yeah,
I'm praying a lot, and I have the right intentions, and my company sucks. I'm just doing a terrible job on every front. And that's when I started.
How were you as a leader?
I think I was. I think I had a lot of places that people. I'm very inspirational,
Yeah.
or people really enjoy listening to me,
Yeah.
give vision. So I think I was able to draw people to a vision really well, but operationally as a leader, I was terrible because I just get bored or not look at the detail, like the net income versus and so it creates problems. So you can get people stirred up and excited as a leader, but if you're not leading them through operationally, you lead them into nothing. Lead them into failure, really.
Yeah. So then, what did you do to shift from now it's not just a vision, but like I'm gonna from like an operational perspective. Like, was there any strategies, disciplines that you started to implement to make that shift?
Pain is one of the best teachers, even though I was super slow to learn from it. But so Shackleton, who's an explorer from the early 1900s, has a phrase. His family quote was, "By endurance we overcome," meaning you overcome if you just don't give up. So I would say, even though it took me a long time, 2002 to 2021, basically is how long it took us to start really turning a true profit.
2002 to 2021.
Yeah.
19 years.
Yes. Now, we had a few profitable years in the early time.
Yes.
But I would say from 2013 to 2018, 19, only lost. I'll get
2013 to 2018.
Yes, but we were growing so fast that we were bringing income. That's so deceiving. It's hard to even,
especially in a construction business. You're seeing I was experiencing that firsthand. It's like one day you're like, man,
your bank account.
For me, it was like, man, I got 80,000 in the bank, and then another day you're like, wow, I've got a credit card payment and I don't really have that much money in the bank.
That's where I lived.
Yeah.
That's where I lived. And I think, again, being overly idealistic and not understanding the importance of just wisdom,
skills.
Yes. Basic skills of learning how to read a balance sheet, read a P&L, know that net income really
this thought just came to mind, but you being such a visionary isn't only what's gonna get you guys to turn profit. You can't just be a visionary. We were talking about how we need to just what I'm going through with all right, communicator, but that skill alone, you have to bolt it on to something else.
That's a great way to say it.
So
Arlington, I remember driving through Arlington, and I said, and we had one project in Arlington. I remember coming back, telling my partner, we're gonna have more signs in Arlington than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Classic visionary statement, and we did it. Within a year, I had people where did you guys come from? Because our signs were boom, 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 all over the place.
Yeah,
cool. Except we weren't operationally ready for it, and so we had clients that were pissed. We were losing money. I mean, it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
So being a visionary anyways, yeah.
So you knew that. So I guess you're talking about how pain is the best teacher.
Yes. And not quitting. Key to the whole formula, because if you don't quit, no matter how stupid or dense or slow you are, which I'm very slow, seriously, because it took me that long. And so you're 18 years. But if you just don't quit, you'll eventually learn. So eventually I realized, and again, this is college 101.
Yeah.
Net income. So I remember going into my partner in my CFO's office, and again, this is getting into the weeds a little bit, but I said,
let's talk about it.
I just said, I don't care what an accrual statement is, and accrual and cash. I won't get into all that. There's two different ways of looking at an income statement.
Mm-hmm.
Accrual is what you're going to bring in.
Yes.
Cash is what you actually brought in cash.
Mm-hmm.
And we were faking ourselves out because accrual, as you know, in construction, looks so cool because you sign this, $100,000, $500,000 contract, and look at all this. So the net income on accrual was looking really good,
but that's not actual.
Cash was looking really poor, and we would just balance it out. You can do that, but I realized apparently we suck at doing that. I don't want to see an accrual statement. We're not going to look at accrual. All we're looking at is cash in the door and cash out. How much are we bringing in? How many checks are we writing?
Mm-hmm.
And we started that in 2021. I said, I don't want to look at another accrual. Now we started to recently, 2025, but that was a huge piece.
Yes.
If we aren't making money on a cash basis, we aren't making money. So anyways, that's one particular thing.
So in 2021 is when you guys really got your systems down, is what it's.
Well, that's when it was like we started our system change in 2018,
mm-hmm.
but again, it took us 3 years for it start to catch up, and then 2021 was one adjustment, which was I don't care about accrual. Like we were working on personnel, processes, what kind of estimates we did.
Yes.
There were so many pieces that we were working on that took years. Mm-hmm. And then, 2022 was the first year we made an actual real profit.
What'd that feel like?
Oh, it was awesome. That's not true. It felt good, but you're so swimming in debt.
Yeah.
And you're not sure if you can keep doing it.
When did you pay off your debt?
Last year.
What'd that feel like?
Amazing.
So would you, if you were to go back and do it again, would you take on debt?
In the beginning, absolutely not.
Okay.
I would say I would want to be drilling down into, let's use construction as the example, but you could apply it to any business. Do one thing, one project at a time really well, where you don't need to take on debt. Mm-hmm. Do it really well. Keep doing it well and do that for however long, 12 months, 24 months. Mm-hmm. And then when you've got it down, you've got you don't have any chinks in your armor.
Yeah.
Then maybe take on, now as of today, I won't take on any debt. Now I'll take on debt to like do a project, meaning a development, but even that's I'll do very limited debt for that.
Okay.
Because you can't, if it's a $5 million or $2 million project, I'm not going to have $2 million a stroke to build a advisor ground up.
Yeah.
But in terms of to fuel growth, let me restate it. I would not recommend taking on debt to fuel growth. Well, also, too, is you're banking on the growth. What if you don't grow? Right. And why? Why do we have to grow? Back to maybe one of your original questions, the whole thing of process and time. Like, why? Why do we have to fuel growth so we can go from whatever the number is, 1 million to 3 million, and then it's here? It's like, why? Go from 1 million. That's our problem. We were doing 250,000 in 2012. By 2018, we were doing 12 or 13 million. So in 6 years, we went, whatever that X is, big X, like, doubling, tripling, doubling.
Yeah.
It sucked. It literally sucked. It sounded good and it looked good.
Yeah.
We had some articles written about us. Man, Transform says yes to everything. It sucked. Losing money. It was stressful. Pissed clients because you don't have a good process.
Yeah.
You're not really good with personnel. I was selecting the wrong people a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing.
I had another question. So what do you think about plan Bs? Having a plan B, something to fall back on. What do you think about that?
In what regard, though?
Like say so clearly you were like with your construction business.
Yes.
I'm not freaking gonna go get another job or whatever. Like I'm gonna make this happen.
Okay. So that's a great question. And I was in a corner because I had debt with family and friends.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I was backed into a corner. I couldn't go just get some job. Like I would be driving down Riverside Drive looking at guys mowing lawns, right?
Yeah.
And I longed to have that job. I just wanted to put my headphones on and just mow, not think, because I was so much stress and pressure. And
yes.
But I couldn't. Why? I would never be able to pay back the debt. And I knew the only skill set I really had that was a big enough lever to bring $1 million plus in to pay back everybody needed to pay back was the field that I had been in for the last years. So there was no plan B. I mean, if someone would have come to me and said, hey, I got this job and you'll make $300,000 a year, and I would have done the math, okay, $300,000 a year after tax, I may have taken it.
Yeah.
Nobody was offering me that.
Nobody was offering that.
So it wasn't because I was so integrous or I had so much perseverance. I didn't have a plan B.
Yep.
So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but
you didn't even have it. You didn't have a plan B.
And I'm so thankful I didn't have a plan B.
Yes.
I learned so much through the fire.
Well, especially now. I mean, you think about like coming out of debt, like you guys are trying to make a lot of money, you just moved into a beautiful house, and I know, but like that's just like sometimes these opportunities don't want to be exactly feasible if you're working for the for the man. It's
Yeah, it's true.
so
It's very true. Yes. I think plan Bs can be really dangerous, actually,
yeah.
now that I'm thinking about it.
Yes. Let's
Because,
talk about that.
because, well, we were just talking about it before in marriage.
Yeah.
You know, if you plan B is I can always divorce. Like if things get really hard, or in your business, well, I can always go to selling insurance. Or
Yeah.
I think it makes you. It takes away the power of perseverance.
Yeah.
Endurance. You just we don't have to. If there's a plan B, you don't have to.
You don't have to.
You don't have to push through the difficulty and
Yeah.
be up all night crying, doing. There were times I pulled in my driveway crying because the pressure was so intense, and if we didn't get this one job, I couldn't make payroll on Friday. So it sounds weak, right, to be crying, but I just,
No.
it was just like, oh my gosh, the pressure, if I had a plan B, I would never have I'm not strong enough to choose to go through that pain. I would have picked the other path that easier. Well, but as a result of that, I was forced to go through fire, which forged a lot of the
refiner, refines.
Yeah.
So I guess what kind of, to keep you grounded somewhat, I mean, even though it's tough, like in that amount of pressure, like what daily practices or like disciplines like helped you like stay anchored and like you're like, I guess keeping, your eyes on the horizon, or just so you wouldn't even just lose your mind?
It's one thing, super simple, reading scripture.
Reading scripture.
Literally. Reading scripture in a prayerful way.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I would reflect on this all the time. Like that's the only thing that I can ascribe to why I didn't, do lots of dumb things that I would have done otherwise. It kept me grounded. It kept me soft. It kept me open. So daily reading. It sounds so, like.
What about cold plunge, red light therapy?
None of that. I love all that, but none of that. That's all like cool frosting fluff.
Yeah.
Cool. I love it. I do it.
Yeah.
Daily, the monotonous daily spending time opening up this ancient text to meet the living Jesus.
Yes.
And having him, sometimes doesn't feel like it, but having him keep your heart solid, give you a measure of peace when everything's crazy.
Yeah.
That was 100% the anchor is the scripture. Jesus, but through the scripture, not just, well, me and Jesus, he's like my bro. Like, it was reading the scripture on a
daily.
I mean, I could name, it's very few days that I would miss, not because I was so spiritual.
Yes.
I was so desperate. And I knew I had to have an anchor. If I didn't have an anchor, I was a basket case.
Yeah.
I was a mess for my family, for my business. But if I had just spend some time in the scripture, meet with Jesus on some measure in some way. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, again, I think I got some good instruction early on in life that talked about the power of God's word, that it actually, even if you don't feel it, there's something powerful.
Yeah.
I got a guy at work who's not maybe a spiritual guy in the sense, but he started listening to the scripture on he has a long drive commute. Mm-hmm. He started listening to the Bible app or whatever it was called. He's like, it's making a difference in my life. And he's just not into that stuff. But he just started doing it because he heard me talking about it. So I just think there's power in it, even if you don't have a whole lot of belief that there is.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, you can get a ton of wisdom from Proverbs. And I mean, lean not on your own understanding. And then there's just so much in there.
Yes.
So what would you say to somebody who's 22? This is a selfish question.
Who would that be?
Man, you've got these visions and you've got I guess a high motor or whatever, right? And you're not exactly where you want to be, but it's you're man, I can almost literally taste it, but I'm not there yet. And having to understand the process, actually me and our friend Michael, we're talking, he was telling me about how the founder of, well, your story is very similar to his, actually. The founder of Cardinal Health didn't make any money in the first 10 years of the business, but it's most people aren't willing to go wait 10 years,
right?
And that's like a question I've been asking myself recently, because it's like, the old like verbiage too, like, oh, Rome wasn't built overnight. But I think, yeah, like the biggest fear of probably people my age is not becoming like the person that they want to be, but also too, it's just like not happening fast enough. And that's like, but we live in a society where it's like, we want microwaved meals. We don't want like the slow cooking process. I don't know what kind of.
There's a phrase you used. You said, "I'm so close, I can kind of taste it."
Yeah.
So my question back to you is, well, what is it that you're almost tasting?
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I guess what I feel like me personally right now, like I put so much pressure on myself. So I guess it's like, a little bit about my story, right? Leaving school, then with the construction stuff and like seeing great success in that, but then stepping away from that, but like not really feeling like there's like somewhat like a breath, or like feeling like any like joy in that process, like, or something I want to build or something I want to create. I don't know.
Well,
there's a lot there, and maybe I'm just word vomiting, but
no. Here's what. So the reason I was asking the taste piece, because I think we are so entrenched, so swimming in the culture of success as it relates to money, business, all that the taste that I was trying to get at was, I can almost taste it, is referencing success specifically around business and finances, because that's what we
honestly, yeah, you're right.
That's esteem.
Yeah, you're right.
You're not totally unique, or what's wrong with you? That's what we elevate all the time, everywhere. What we don't elevate is the actual stuff that really tastes. Business success. I mean, it's easy for me to say, "Oh, your business is successful," so it's easy for you to say,
"Yeah."
I just know where I've been, where I'm at, and the difference of the tasting of the life that we all want, which is some peace and some joy, or happiness, whatever word you want to use. We think it's when I have $1 million in the bank and I have, people kind of know me.
Yeah.
Out of having it's like it amounts to something, but it's like single digits on a scale of 1 to 100.
Yeah.
It's like 5 or 10 points on that scale. Seriously.
Yeah.
What measures the big movements on that scale of happiness, peace, and joy is who you are inside, your character, your integrity, your virtue, and the people that you're with, your family, if you're married, your children, and your friends.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not striving in those areas. We're not feeling pressure around, I want to grow as a man. I want to grow in integrity. I want to grow in love and care and patience. We're not feeling pressed to do that because our culture doesn't talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, as a 22-year-old, I wish someone would have really helped me with this.
Yeah.
The money will come.
Mm-hmm.
All that stuff, if you focus on your heart and being the kind of person around the people that you're with, that you want to be, if you focus on that, because your heart goes with you. If your heart's jacked, you got all kinds of triggers and this and that, and issues and brokenness, and you're not dealing with that, you're going to get married and have all that. You're going to have a business. You're going to have $1 million. Or you're going to have a jacked up heart, and your life's going to suck. And I could introduce you to lots of people, and you've met them too, who have all of that stuff, but they've never dealt with their own heart. And as a result of that, their life sucks. And I could take you to, I was in Costa Rica with Jonathan and Caleb, and we were on the beach, and there was a dude who his job with his family was to lay out chairs on the beach. Yeah. That's what he did. That's how he made money. And he lived in a shack, and the smile on his face, his kids, his wife, he had more than a bunch of the millionaires that we ascribe to be like. I mean, because he was the things that matter. Yeah. He was about giving attention to. And we just so lost at sea when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think about, there's a lot of truth to that with just like the society that we live in though too. It's just like, oh, you got to be making a lot of money.
Yes.
People have to know you.
Yes.
Right. And like, that is really hard to like, not like with social media. I'm taking like a little, like literally last night, I was like, man, I'm deleting Instagram for like a little bit, just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Just give it a feel. See how it feels.
Just like a feel. And I don't know. I can already feel like a little bit of like just like you're just not scrolling. You're not like looking at, oh, this person making this X amount of money or whatever. I think there's a lot of people my age that definitely get so much anxiety from that. But the struggle with that though is like a lot of like business opportunity can come from that too, depending on what you want to do. So like that could be your lead generation platform,
Totally.
or it could be your.
It's such a double-edged sword. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think about you, and what if, and this is not a overnight thing.
Yes.
What if you really began slowly to believe that it's about your own heart, soul work, getting that right.
Yes.
And being the best brother, friend, son, all the dynamics that you're in, just really becoming the best person. What if that became the high goal?
Yeah.
And everything else is secondary. Yeah, I'm gonna do this business opportunity. I'm gonna take care of this. You're still being faithful with it, but you just flip the deck around.
Yeah.
That becomes the focus. And you celebrate your wins there, because you can have wins there on a regular basis where you're like, wow, I'm less of an a-hole than I used to be. Like to my dad, or I worked out some issues with my mom or my brother. I'm more of a servant when it comes, whatever, like those kind of things. And that's the stuff. I mean, all the sages through, literally all of them, doesn't matter what religion, what continent they were on, they all agree on this thing. If you want to pursue happiness, literally, I'm talking about Stoics to Aristotle to theologians to philosophers, atheists to, one thing that they would say consistently across the board: pursue virtue and you will gain happiness. We don't even know what virtue is. We literally don't even know. Virtue is, there's a lot of ways to define. I mean, we know about the cardinal virtues, right? The patience, kindness, joy, peace, justice, gratitude. But basically virtue is becoming and being the kind of person you long to be internally, not out here with the bling and all that, but internally, that's virtue. Just think about it. You can have all the trappings of the world. And if you don't have virtue, it's nothing.
It means nothing.
I could pick on a lot of famous people, right? But I won't. You just picture one.
Yes.
He or she has everything you could possibly want, but they lack virtue, like self-control. So they're screwing everything they can be screwed, and ruining their family, or they're pounding and they're addicted, or they're whatever.
Yes.
They lack just one virtue, self-control. That's just one of multiple virtues. Because they lack that, their entire life sucks. And they have everything that our culture says is important.
Yeah.
They lack that single virtue. What about other virtues that are equally important? Being gracious, generous, that's full virtue. So,
yeah. I guess one thing like I'm kind of running into or just wrestling with too is like the societal pressure, right? There's so much of it. And or just like as I'm in this like pivoting, like with ending and flipping business, kind of going all in on the media, but also just figuring out like what it is exactly that I want to build, create. There's a pressure to have it. And frankly, I feel it from my parents. So where it's just
they want you to produce, which is understandable.
Yeah. But also like I'm on a very different path than them too. So like I feel like, and like, I mean, you totally get this like as like a parent, but like I totally see where they're coming from, where it's like they have an idea of success, they have an idea, and the only path that they know is theirs, so they're going to try to prescribe that onto you. Or that's like one thing like I've noticed,
and that's intense. Having your parents, because you care about your parents. You honor them. You want to. And
that's who, like,
they want you to be stable. Right? They want you to be safe and secure and have a check coming in. That's what they want. Ultimately.
Exactly.
I mean, ultimately what they want is your security and safety and wholeness, but they see that monthly check coming in. That's okay, good. And when it's not, like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And like, for me, it's like, like I've given myself like enough cushion to pursue these things like all in for some time, but just the pressure of like, do you know who Mel Robbins is? Have you ever heard of Mel Robbins?
His name sounds familiar.
Yeah, she's a podcast girl. She's really good. If anyone's listening, you guys should go check her out. She's great. But viewing like the 20s, which I'm trying to like view this as personally is like, I'm trying different things. I think that's like a great thing. And like, it should be okay to be like, you know what? I just tried something. I don't like it. And like, now I'm reevaluating and like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
But like, it's not okay to just like being like I think about like my friends who are like at Miami, like they're experiencing so much pressure. Like, oh, if I don't have a job lined up right after college, like
That's bad.
I'm done for. Or like, that's bad. Like, how am I going to look? I'm going to look like a failure. I'm going to look like a loser. Like, why can't it just be okay for like a few months or 6 months or whatever to be like, I'm figuring it out.
Right.
That's one thing I've been.
That's hard. And on top of that is the need for you're not just figuring it out. Like, well, do I want to be do I want to work at Costco?
Well,
but what if that was an option? Now, this will sound crazy, but what if you didn't feel the pressure from an identity standpoint to make big money? And what if I'm using like a totally random example, but what if working at Costco was on the table? Because it's like, hey, I can interact. I know this isn't your desire, but but the problem is we create this culture where, guess what? People have to work at Costco.
Yes.
People have to push brooms, and people have to be plumbers that actually can make a ton of money. People have to be all the things that we don't think are cool.
Yeah.
They don't fit the Instagram, whatever.
Yes.
But I think we're creating a life vision that only fits like 3% of the population.
Yes.
What about the 97% of people who are going to be working at whatever, Chipotle, or they're going to be at Lowe's working the counter or whatever? Is that bad? Is there something?
No, it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. But somehow we've created this dynamic where we have to feel ashamed.
Yes.
Either if we're not we're in a limbo land like you are.
Yeah.
6 months, 9 months.
Yeah.
We have to be ashamed of that. Or where do you work? I'm at Costco. I'm just kind of trying. Cool, man. Like, that's great.
It's great.
What we should be really talking about is, so how are things going with your marriage? How are things going in your soul? How is your peace? And not peace based upon Costco, $1 million.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, frankly, I feel like this is actually like a very humbling time too. I will say that. It's like, first year ever making over like $100,000, right? It's great. And then you're like, I don't like doing that. And now you're like, made that money working for yourself. And now you're like contemplating, I was like, man, maybe I'll do like a little something on the side just while I'm trying to figure this out. Like that, like, you know what that does? And like, this is me, like, I was really thinking about this the other day because I was talking to a friend about that. That offends my ego. Yes. Because it's like, you just made that money, you work for yourself. Like, I'm not going and doing that. Like, I'm too good for that.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah. That's the curse of early success.
Yeah. And that's what I'm like walking through right now. And it's like, I'm just like, oh, like, no, like, that's beneath me. It's like, bro, you're 22. There's nothing beneath you.
Right.
And even like, I was listening to a podcast the other day and I was talking about how the CEO literally would like go and mop the floors of his warehouse once a month to ground him.
Wow.
And I'm just like, man, there's so much value in that. Because I'm just starting to realize how ugly pride is and ego is. And the quicker we can get to destroying that, the better.
And I would say destroying it so that you can just experience more happiness.
More peace, more joy in whatever you're doing.
Yes. I think we're so oriented around, it's so bad that I'm prideful. It's, bad to God or however.
Yeah.
No, it's bad because it's ruining your life.
Yes.
Ego ruins your life. Like bad, good ego is good. But
yeah.
Pride and all that stuff. It's like, I want to deal with that so I can just have more joy.
Yes.
Peace. Have more, just be at rest when someone else is rolling up in a whatever they're rolling up in, and I'm rolling up in my Honda Pilot.
Yeah.
Like, I seriously, I have a Honda Pilot.
Yes.
And I'm driving it. It's a great car.
Yeah.
But depending on the setting I'm in, it's well below the people that I'm with. And I'm just letting my ego, I still deal with that. I'm letting my ego eat it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm rolling up in my Honda Pilot, baby, and you're rolling up in your whatever.
Oh, I like that, how you look at that. Like, I'm letting my ego eat it.
Because I know it doesn't serve me.
Yeah.
It doesn't help. And it's not dead.
Yeah.
So when it rears its head in those silly things, I just kind of, I'm aware of it. And okay.
You can't feed it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's really easy to feed it when you just start, like, when you make accumulating stuff the goal.
Yeah.
Or like the followers or whatever it is. Yeah. Man. I think that's a pretty good ending point. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Seriously, we'll have to do this again at some point. A lot of wisdom shared. Thank you guys for tuning in. Some changes are coming with the podcast, like I said in the intro. But yeah, this is a great. If people wanted to get in contact with you, how would they go about that? Or you don't even want to throw that out there? That's all right too. Send a business inquiry at Transform.
I was going to say that sounds so cheesy though.
Yeah.
I mean, just my email.
Maybe we can drop your email
just drop my email
in the show notes.
Yeah.
All right.
Perfect.
Love that. All right. Well, thank you guys. Talk soon.